A very good evening and welcome to KTV2's special live coverage coming to you live from the Ministry of Information in the state of Kuwait. I am Mazal Ansari and tonight we bring you a comprehensive look at one of the most pivotal elections in recent American history, the 2024 U.S. presidential race between U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and former U.S. President Donald Trump, set for Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. With just 11 days remaining before the election day, we will delve into the significance of this contest, its implications for the United States, for Kuwait, the GCC region, the Arab world, and beyond, as well as what it means for the future of American democracy. Throughout this hour, we will analyze key issues and provide on-the-ground insights as we approach this historic moment in U.S. history. Let us begin by exploring the significance of this U.S. presidential election with this report. Stay with us.
The 2024 U.S. presidential election comes amid significant political polarization in the U.S., where key issues such as the economy, social justice, and foreign policy dominates the discourse. First, let's consider the economy. American voters are increasingly concerned about economic recovery. Vice President Kamala Harris advocates for investment in clean energy and infrastructure, aiming to create jobs and promote sustainable growth. In contrast, former President Donald Trump emphasizes tax cuts and deregulation, promoting a return to manufacturing jobs as a path to economic revival. Social justice is another pivotal issue. The rise of movements advocating for racial equality and police reform has influenced public sentiment significantly. Harris's platform reflects these values, pushing for legislation to address systemic inequalities. Meanwhile, Trump positions himself as a law and order candidate, appealing to those prioritizing public safety. Foreign policy also plays a crucial role in this election. Vice President Harris is likely to advocate for multilateralism, emphasizing cooperation with U.S. allies, while Trump may prioritize national interests over global partnerships. As we move closer to the November 5th, this election serves as a referendum on the future direction of American society. With differing visions and high stakes, the world will be watching closely as the events unfolds.
So tonight, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
Welcome back to the program. Joining us tonight is Dr. Aidel Manna, a renowned political analyst and expert in world politics. With years of experience in the field, Dr. Al-Manna offers valuable insights into the dynamics at play in this U.S. presidential election. Welcome, Doctor. We're pleased and grateful to have you with us this evening to discuss the implications of this critical presidential race.
Thank you very much, Mazen. I'm glad to be with you also to talk about the American presidential election. Also, there is a parliamentary, if we can say, for the Congress election also. It is very important for the whole of the world that the American election always been viewed by different views. That's the impact of the result of the election.
Especially at this time with this tumultuous situation in many areas of the world.
That's right.
Maybe we can just start first by talking a little bit about U.S. and Kuwaiti relations. You know, even prior to the invasion, prior to that, I mean, it's a very rich history. I am a student of U.S. University. I had a wonderful time when I was in the U.S., made a lot of friends, still have friends in the U.S. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about Kuwait-U.S. relations.
It is good start, actually, because Kuwait, as you know, was a British protect for a long time, since 1899. But the United States of America wasn't far away from Kuwait at that time. I think on the request of Sheikh Mubarak al-Sabah, the American mission, which is a religious mission, established the American hospital in Kuwait in 1913, and it is started working, that hospital, in 1914. And it was actually very helpful for the Kuwaiti at that time because of the short of medicine, for the short of doctors and
specialized.
Actually, that was one of the most important start for good relation with the Kuwaitis, whether the government or the people. In 1951, the United States actually opened its consulate in Kuwait. That's afterward, it's been this consulate elevated to an embassy 10 years later in 1961, when Kuwait gained its full independence from the United Kingdom at that time.
Established the constitution.
Yes, that's right, and to become a recognized state at that time. Definitely afterward, the democratic way of Sheikh Abdullah Salim and his friends for the Kuwaiti people at that time. In 1961, 1962, 1962, Sheikh Abdullah Salim received the constitution from the assembly, and he signed it as it is. Actually, the United States been a very close relation with Kuwait and with all the Gulf states, definitely. Especially after the withdrawal of the British from what they called East Suez Canal at that time in the 70s, 80s. Afterward, Britain actually decided to be just in some areas. The United States actually come to actually fill the vacuum at that time.
That the British left.
Yes, and continue to have good relations. I remember also, I hope also you remember, that during the Iran-Iraq war, Kuwait actually sought the assistance of the United States to mark its tankers. There were about 11 tankers, oil tankers, with the American flag. And that's to protect these tankers from both sides, warring side at that time. And that's one of the advantages actually given to Kuwait. We also don't actually forget at all that's in the 2nd of August 1990, the Iraqi army, the Iraqi Republican Guards actually invaded Kuwait at the order of Saddam Hussein, that he was the president, and Kuwait. The United States actually was one of the first nations to condemn the invasion and called for the withdrawal of the invading forces from the occupied Kuwait at that time, and the return of the legitimate government of Kuwait. As we all remember, the whole world remember, Saddam Hussein wasn't actually thinking of withdraw from Kuwait, and the United States with other countries, especially our
coalition,
our brother in the Gulf, especially the Saudis, prepared the area for a war to force Saddam Hussein to go to withdraw. Before that, so many resolutions has been issued by the Security Council, and the United States actually played a major role in making these resolutions available and enable Kuwait to demand it is returning its sovereignty. And when Saddam Hussein rejected to withdraw, the resolutions actually applied that the force has to be used, and it has been used actually. On 17th of January 1991, the coalition started its air war against the Iraqi army, either in Kuwait or in Iraq. And in 22nd of February, Kuwait was liberated. And we all remember that when George Bush Sr., President of the United States, said to Sheikh Saud al-Sabah, Mr. Ambassador, Kuwait is free. That's the best day in our life at that time. And therefore, since then, actually Kuwait remain a very close relation with the United States, either in the military or in the economic. Kuwait is an important partner in the United States counter-terrorism efforts, providing assistance in the military, diplomatic, and intelligence arenas, supporting efforts to block financing of terrorist groups. You know, that's after the Kuwait liberation, we faced with some of these terrorist, extremists who were actually trying to close
cause more tension. Yes. Kuwait actually suffered.
Suffered. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia suffered. Other countries actually, Bahrain, and even afterward, after the overthrow of Saddam Hussein, Iraq suffered. All the countries, Syria, half of Iraq, half of Syria. Al-Baghdadi established his own caliphate government, and that's all these actually been anti the governments of the region, and anti also the United States of America. Kuwait helped in this respect by, first of all, actually help the United States to overthrow Saddam Hussein. It is not a secret, and this is our right. Also help the United States to counter all these kind of terrorist groups for the interest of the region and for the peace as a whole.
So it's a rich history between the U.S. and Kuwait. But now returning to our main discussion tonight, we want to focus a little bit on the upcoming U.S. election, which is coming up on November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th, next month. To begin with, Doctor, how do you see the election outcome influencing U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, particularly regarding the Gulf Cooperation Council states and specifically Kuwait?
Well, actually, one cannot predict who will be the winner.
Not yet.
Yes.
It's really 50-50. I mean, nobody can predict.
It is neck and neck.
Neck and neck.
Hey, and probably, definitely one of them will win.
One or the other.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably
everybody asks these questions, but we really don't have an answer.
Yeah, probably that's one of them will win the election. It might be Trump, the Republican, who is actually understanding very well the area here. He also wants to establish good relations with the Gulf regions. He is in a very good relation and mood with the Saudi government, especially
he visited them during his
and especially with His Highness the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. At the same time, unfortunately, he's very side with the Israelis.
Yes.
And that's not in the interest of the peace in the region. And actually, it is against also the United Nations resolutions, especially Resolution 242 for 1967 and 338 for 1973. They both say that the Israeli forces must pull out of these the occupied areas up to 4th of June 1967, and that means there must be a Palestinian state. The Arab Initiative in 2002 in Beirut say the same, that the Arab will recognize Israel if there is a Palestinian state established with its own border and fully independent. Unfortunately, the extremists in Israel are like the extremists in some area in the developing countries. They believe that Palestine, the whole, it is Yehuda Samira, which is the whole for the Jewish state. And this is one of norms of Netanyahu, who also claiming that he is not allowing establishing an independent Palestinian state, and he will force the existence of the Jewish state despite the rejection of the whole world or the opposition of even the friends of Israel. For us, the Democratic Party in this respect probably is the best here, because the Democratic Party believe in the two-state solutions, and that means there is an establishment of a Palestinian state recognized by Israel and recognized by the whole world, and there will be a state, an Arab state or Palestinian state beside the Israeli state. That probably solve the problem. We will have the problem of refugees, but it might be solved later with understanding for the both sides and other countries, including the United States and the superpowers in the world. Unfortunately, the Republican, if there is no Arab high pressure, will keep siding to the Israelis at the expense of the Palestinians.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. And as we approach the pivotal 2024 U.S. presidential election on November 5th, it is essential to take a closer look at the two leading candidates, incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Each offers distinct visions for America's future, reflecting their differing philosophies and approaches to governance. Stay tuned for this report prepared by our colleagues in the English News Department.
Are you ready to make your voices heard?
It was only the beginning of our fight to rescue the American dream.
And when we fight,
We're going to make America great again.
Kamala Harris, the first female vice president in U.S. history, has positioned herself as a champion of progressive values. Her platform emphasizes economic equity, climate action, and social justice. Harris advocates for policies such as universal health care, comprehensive immigration reform, and robust investment in renewable energy. Her approach aims to unite a diverse electorate, focusing on issues that resonate with younger voters and marginalized communities. However, her administration has faced challenges, including economic pressure and ongoing debates about crime and policing, which she will now need to address to galvanize support. On the other hand, Donald Trump returns as a formidable contender, appealing to the significant base that values populism and traditional American values. His campaign highlights economic revival through tax cuts, deregulation, and strong focus on domestic manufacturing. Trump's America's First policy resonates with voters concerned about immigration and national security. However, his divisive rhetoric and past presidency controversies continue to polarize opinions. Trump's ability to maintain his base while appealing to moderates will be crucial as he seeks to reclaim the White House. As these candidates prepare to the final stretch of the campaign, the contrast between their visions for America could not be more pronounced. The stakes are high, and the outcome will shape the nation's trajectory for years to come. Stay tuned as we continue to explore the implication of this historic election.
Welcome back, our viewers, to our special program dedicated to the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Joining us now is Dr. Nabil Mikhail, a prominent writer and political analyst based in Washington, D.C. USA. Dr. Nabil, we have a question for you. What are the key policies proposed by the two major candidates? And how will these policies impact the future of the USA in the next 4 years?
What are the key economic policies proposed by the two major U.S. presidential candidates, and how might these policies shape the U.S. economy over the next 4 years? There are many differences in their agenda as far as the economy is concerned. There are differences between Trump and Harris. For example, while Trump favors tax cuts, Kamala Harris and the Democrats accuse Trump of helping the rich at the expense of the poor regarding tax credit. To be specific, the economic benefits that will accrue to the American middle class could be the point of departure for any explanation contrasting the differences between Harris and Trump. Harris has more of a focus on the middle class. Trump is more concerned about the low-income middle class. The low-income middle class. The middle class in America is a very important category in the U.S. Society and the American electorate in general. It has grown over the years to include many minorities such as Black Americans and the Latinos. However, it still faces many economic difficulties, especially with inflation and the rising cost of housing. Kamala Harris promises tax credits for home buyers. This will make housing, according to her vision, more affordable for the American middle class. Trump, on the other hand, wants to keep the low-income middle class protected from foreign goods. Most of the low-income middle class are whites, and they live in the battleground states that Trump needs to win. By helping them, he can win a critical sector of the American public, and at the same time, he wants to rebuild America's industrial base. Trump wants to link the help to the low-income middle class with the reindustrialization of America, making them a skilled labor force. This is his vision. However, despite the good desires by both candidates to help the middle class and the lower middle class, it is not known whether they will be successful or not. For housing, the local governments actually have many programs to help people finding affordable housing. And at the same time, it is not known yet how soon can the low-income middle class become a skilled labor force as Trump wishes. So the two economic visions cannot be fulfilled despite the strong desire by each candidate to implement them.
That was Dr. Nabil Mikhail joining us on the phone from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for answering our question. We will take a short break and then return to our guest in the studio, political analyst Dr. Aayel Al-Manna', to continue our discussion on the upcoming U.S. presidential election. Stay with us. Welcome back to our live program with our special guest this evening, political analyst Dr. Ayed Al-Manna'. Dr. Ayed, let's continue with more questions regarding the upcoming U.S. presidential election and its global implications during a time of significant conflict and uncertainty in many regions of the world. Dr. Ayed, after hearing Dr. Nabil's observations over the phone from Washington, D.C., in your opinion, how might the U.S. election results affect regional stability in the Gulf Cooperation Council states, and especially in Kuwait?
Well, actually, both the candidates actually belong to political parties, and it is the policy of the party. The most important is the American interest in the region. Also, the long-standing relation with the Gulf states and other countries like Egypt, Jordan, Morocco also. Definitely the Republican, mostly with the upper class in the United States of America, probably they near more supporting the Israelis.
Big business, yeah.
Business, yeah. Big families, especially Trump himself is a businessman, one of the biggest businessmen. He always claiming that he will solve all the problems in the world, but nobody can solve all the problems at all. There are other powers now rising, China, Russia, even India. They all new powers actually coming to compete with the Americans and the West.
And not just political powers, they're also economically.
Now, China is invading the world economically. As we remember, Mazen, Japan, after the and Germany, after the Second World War, they were destroyed, but they all come up and become one of the most important economic power in the world.
The U.S. had influence over those two countries as well, yes?
It is, but at the same time, it has no influence on China. It has no influence in Russia.
Right.
And these also becoming economic, industrial powers who are invading the world peacefully and not by war,
but
products, peacefully.
Yes,
for their own goods and competing with the Western Europe and United States of America. Also, their commodities probably in their price they are lower than the American and others price. Probably also it is not the same quality, but it has its own market within, especially the third world countries, because these third world countries, the ability of the people to buy expensive commodities is not as what in the United States or Western Europe or even in our countries in the Gulf we are able to buy. But so many countries are not actually, because they want also to have the commodities which they can pay for it. This is can be made available by the Chinese and the Russians. And therefore I think the Americans will think, any one of who will win will think of how to become more flexible and understandable for the needs of the Arab worlds, who are actually now led by the Gulf states, especially the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And that might help, because also the Saudis made it clear they will not recognize the state of Israel unless there is a solution for the Palestinian problem by adopting the two-state solution and the establishment of an independent, secured Palestinian state. And that's even I think Trump will accept that after he won the election, if he won. Definitely also we have understand that the culture of the society might not up to this moment accept a woman as a president. You remember
That's a
Mrs.
issue.
Clinton.
Yeah.
Mrs. Clinton was white and the wife of ex-president and secretary for state for a long time, very well known, but it has been defeated by Trump at that time.
By the electoral vote, right?
Yes,
Not
by
the
electoral,
popular
that's
vote.
right,
Yeah.
by electoral vote. And that's actually different. Probably this time, because of the problems surrounding Trump, especially the ethics and the relation and corruption, probably that will help Kamala Harris to be the first woman to be the president of the United States, as what happened with Barack Obama, the first black to be the president of the United States.
Dr. Ayed, how do you foresee the new U.S. administration shaping its approach to international conflicts? We talked a little bit about the Palestinian issue, particularly the ongoing issues in Palestine and Lebanon, the death of so many innocent civilians, including women and children, and the overall dire humanitarian situation in that part of the world now.
Unfortunately, that's the United States who's supposed to be the stronger defender of the human rights, either by its own constitution or by the human rights actually values, unfortunately, is still unable to force Israel to respect the United Nations resolutions. And as long as there is no respect for the United Nations resolutions and for the human rights of these people, there will be no solution, unfortunately. Yes, we have extremists in our region who actually resort to the arms to fight against the Israelis, either from a religious point of view or because the Israelis actually expanding their influence on the area. They are rejecting to implement the resolutions of the United Nations. And the resolution I mentioned for you earlier, supposed to be implemented. And that means the implementation of these, that means there is no reason for the conflict between the two sides, the Palestinian and the Israelis. And behind the Palestinian, there are Arab and Muslim who might fight with them. The Lebanese actually militia fought against the Israelis, claiming that they are supporting Gaza. The ceasefire of Gaza will make them stop their fighting. But unfortunately, now we are finding that the Israeli attacking the Lebanese civilians, the Lebanese buildings, the Lebanese life, and forcing probably 1,200,000 to flee their areas in the south and go to the north and to other areas. And therefore, there must be an American leaders who say clearly that any party who does not respect the United Nations resolutions will not get the American support. And I probably think that Kamala Harris, probably if she won the election, she might be free to express her view publicly. Now she is trying to get all the votes
Focus on
either
the
from
election, yeah.
the supporter of the Arab side or the supporter of the Jewish side. And we know that the Jewish influence is very high in the United States of America. And at the same time, the majority, the Muslim and the Arabs, they are more than the Jewish in counting the votes. But unfortunately, their influence is not as high as the Jewish lobbying.
But they are voters, right?
Surely,
They are voting.
They are Americans.
And they they outnumber.
Outnumber of the Jewish
So when
influence.
they should be
And
trying to get their votes, right?
Yes, and we can say also, not all the Jewish, probably not all the Jewish actually supporting Israel. And some
That's
of
also
them,
another very important point. Absolutely.
yeah, so many of them even against the existence of Israel, either from religious point of view or from political point of view, because they think, so many of them think that as long as this kind of extreme government govern Israel, there will be no solution for the problem in the region. And that means there will be more and more wars and fighting and desperate case for all the people, either for the Israelis or for the Palestinians. And some of them, one of them at least, is a member of the PLO. Yuri Davis is a member of the, he was actually a scholar in Britain, in Exeter University, and I know him very personally. And others actually supporting the Palestinians' right. That's not necessarily to deny the existence of the Jewish state, but why they are supporting? Because also the resolution 181 for 1947, which divided Palestine into two states, gave the Jewish nearly 54 of the Palestinian land, and give the Palestinian percent, and give the Palestinian 43 nearly
less percentage
to the Palestinian.
Yes.
Unfortunately, it has been rejected, this resolution, but early the rejection by the Arabs, not necessarily by the Palestinian, it does not actually make it allow for the Israelis to take over the occupied areas, which has been occupied in 5th of June 1967. And that's come also the resolution 242, 338, which actually say very clearly that the Israeli forces must withdraw to the border for the line of 4 June 1967.
Dr. Eid, we've been speaking for about 45 minutes, and I'm still uncertain which way, Harris or Trump. Well, let's see.
Nobody can actually give an answer.
Anyway, so we have a report.
It is in the American, actually.
We have this report. Please stay with us, watch this report, and we will be back with our special guest this evening.
I accept your nomination to be President of the United States.
So tonight, I proudly accept your nomination for President of the United States. Thank you.
As the United States approaches the November 5th presidential election, the future of Kuwaiti-US relations is in the spotlight. The long-standing partnership, built on shared economic, security, and diplomatic interest, historically Kuwait has maintained close ties with both Republican and Democratic administrations, valuing the United States' role as a strategic ally and a significant trade partner. However, the election results could influence various policy areas. A potential shift in U.S. foreign policy could impact strategic priorities, particularly in terms of defense, collaboration, regional stability, and economic ties. Economic policies are also under examination, especially concerning energy markets and trade. Changes in U.S. energy policy, particularly with regard to fossil fuels, could affect Kuwait's oil sector and export strategies. Additionally, trade policies influenced by the election could impact Kuwaiti investments in the United States. Kuwaiti officials are closely monitoring the election for signs of continuity or change in U.S. policy towards the Middle East, including approaches to regional conflicts. Regardless of the election outcome, the state of Kuwait will continue seeking strong bilateral relations with the U.S. while adapting to any shifts in policy to safeguard its national interests and regional standing.
Welcome back. As we wrap up our discussion tonight, we are joined once again by Dr. Aid al-Manna' to provide some final insights into the upcoming U.S. presidential election and its potential implications for Kuwait and the region. Dr. Aid, we spoke about the United Nations a little bit. Regarding U.S. global leadership, how do you think the U.S. election results will affect America's involvement in international organizations such as the United Nations Security Council, UNICEF, UNIFIL, who are in Lebanon, and UNRWA, as well as others? What might this mean for Kuwait's diplomatic interests?
Actually, for the Security Council,
UN,
the United States has the veto.
The veto power.
There are 5 countries member of the Security Council who have the
China, Russia, the UK,
Russia,
France, and the USA.
5 members, permanent members, who have the veto to actually deny any vote and prevent it from being adopted. But that doesn't mean there will be no presidential, they call it, speech or decision, just saying what should be. Unfortunately, the United States, when it comes to Israel, to condemn the Israelis' actions, they usually use their veto against the other side, helping the Israelis. even if they are not actually satisfied with the Israeli actions. I know,
Blindly.
like for instance, after what happened on 7th of October 2023, the President of the United States, Prime Minister of Britain at that time, and others, they all actually hurry up to Israel to show their solidarity with the Israeli government. This is understandable because that Israel has been attacked. But afterward, the United States of America, the president himself, President Biden, talked so many times about the two-state solutions, but he has not been given any dam from the Israelis. Netanyahu ignored all that. Netanyahu went to the United States and spoke to the Congress and saying that he will continue the war because there are terrorists and those who are against the democracy and so. And he showed that these are the good and these are the bad guys and so. Unfortunately, the United States should change its policy and should take into consideration that siding with the Israelis against the United Nations resolutions is not acceptable by its friends in the Arab world at all, including our countries. So either Kuwait or other Gulf states, it is not acceptable as long as there is no solution for the Palestinian problems. For the UNRWA is actually a human factor playing a very good role in the Palestinian occupied territories, especially in Gaza. The Israeli claim that some of the employees being members of Hamas, they do not increase than 7 people. Okay, we can dismiss them, but not actually to close this
important organization.
This international organization who actually treating all the people who are very much needing their help. And that's actually, it is not a good gesture from the United States to support Israel in this respect. Although they are trying not to give whole support, but at the same time, they cannot say to the Israeli, you are wrong, and we must apply the resolutions to solve the problem as a whole and respect the other side of the conflict, the Palestinian who are now recognizing Israel. The PLO, which is the legislative leadership of the Palestinian, recognized the existence of Israel. And Israel recognized it as an authority for the Palestinian, but not an independent state. This is actually, if the United States, if the next president become a very strong person, a very neutral president, I think he must talk to both sides as equal and must show his respect for the right of the both sides, not only the Israeli side.
We have come to the end of our program, Dr. Aid. Just want to give you an opportunity, a final, to share with us any final thoughts or key takeaways you'd like to share regarding the upcoming U.S. election. I don't want you to guess, but I mean, what do you think? Are you siding with one side, your own personal, professional opinion?
I think if is it in hoping, probably I hope that's the Democrat will win the
The
election.
Democratic Party.
Because
Kamala Harris.
I think they are more open to us, to all parties. Especially, I feel that Mrs. Harris is more objective for the Palestinian question, and the most important for us is to solve the problems. We don't want wars.
Yes.
Okay. At the same time, probably Trump more beneficial for us against Iran. But Iran is a country, neighboring country. We want also to solve the problem with it peacefully at the same time. And therefore, I think for us here in Kuwait, both parties are friends and they have interest. Kuwait is one of the largest economic country, importing from the United States of America, also invest in the United States of America. Kuwait is a very rational state in its politics, and I think it has a great respect in the United States of America and other countries, because it is an open mind country and respect the human rights of her people and all the citizens in Kuwait. Also, it is not an enemy for any party. It is a country which always think and talk and work for solving the problems with the others through peacefully and through the negotiations, not through the negotiations, not war and confrontations and so on and so forth.
Through diplomacy.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of our special program. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as we explore the implications of the upcoming U.S. presidential election. A special thank you goes out to our guest in the studio this evening, Dr. Aid Al-Manna, for sharing his valuable insights and helping us navigate the complexities of this critical topic. As we approach November 5th, the outcome of this election will undoubtedly shape the future of diplomatic ties, economic partnerships, and regional stability. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.